Keith Hackett, former FA Cup final referee, and Brian Deane are with me, second part of this week's Ref Show. Now, we promised more penalty area drama, and boy, have we got it. Now, this was one that just fizzled out. Scunthorpe at Chelsea, when we were all wondering if, following Bradford City's great win at Stamford Bridge last season, there'd be another shot, but it never really had an opportunity, did it, this one? Chelsea get a goal, and it's also a decision.
Yeah, but I think it was 1-0 at the time, wasn't it? It was for me. It was a nailed-on penalty, and that could have made it very difficult for Chelsea at that point, especially with the kind of season they're having. Yeah. You know, the Dutch boy, I think it was
Ramirez, wasn't it?
Ramirez on Van Veen, yeah. And there's a player either side of him, but then Ramirez has come from the back, and quite clearly, you know, he's stood on the guy's foot. Well,
Mark Robbins, the Scunthorpe manager, said it was a nailed-on penalty. I don't see you disagreeing.
I think Brian's explained it absolutely 100%. It was nailed on. I think, sadly, when you look at the clip, and I'm sure that Craig Pawson will look at and review this, and he needs to, because he's positioned near the technical area, so he's on his diagonal, but way beyond off play, and he's suddenly, for some unknown reason, he's gone static. So he's not on his toes, he's not ready. There's a quick break, and he's then trying to follow the ball. And instead of getting any form of viewing angle, which he can achieve from 20 yards if need be, he doesn't. He runs into trouble, or should I say, he strolls into trouble. And as a result, he's not at the races. And for a referee who's now carrying a white badge, FIFA badge, Craig has really got to look at himself, because this is the weakness in his area, in his area of performance. When he's there, he makes positive and accurate decisions. He wasn't there.
A bit like a striker just not being there when that ball comes across the 6-yard box, I suppose, the analogy.
Going across.
Yeah. And if your fitness is slightly lacking, or you're not timing your runs...
Get there, yeah. So Keith's spot on. You know, and you see it every week. And, you know, you know, Keith has an eye as a referee, you know, and he knows all about the positioning of where they should be to pick these things up. You know, if you're Matt Robbins, if you're Scunthorpe, you know, you sat there this morning thinking, well, what if? You know, it's blatantly clear that, you know, the one thing I would say is that I don't think that Scunthorpe, the players, made enough of a
made enough of it, yeah, in terms of protest, or I suppose we shouldn't be encouraging that in a way. But
no, it shouldn't be. But you know, if you have a sense of injustice on the pitch there and then, you know, it really should. You really should make your claim at that.
And referees have been known to go on player reaction. I remember one of our colleagues, Mark Halsey, going on player reaction for a decision once. I think it was at Arsenal, yeah. And he got criticised for it, but actually he arrived at the right decision, which sometimes it can kind of work. It's a fine line.
This was not a difficult call. This wasn't, you know, anything that was complicated. It was a straightforward foul. You give it anywhere around the pitch, you give the foul. But if you're not there, you're not going to give it. And you know, ultimately at the end of the day, the referee has the responsibility to produce a performance that is the very best he can produce on the day. And it doesn't matter which teams are competing. So it's Chelsea, and it's Scunthorpe United. He's disrespectful. I'm not suggesting that he was in that zone, but for me, this was a basic part of the game. And if you're not at the races, you can't make the decisions. And I feel for the Scunthorpe fans. They've travelled a long distance. It's a time in the game when, who knows, we can do the what-ifs, because if that goal had gone in, the whole spirit of the team, Scunthorpe United, would have been lifted. It would have had a positive effect. And all of a sudden, they've left the ground feeling an injustice. The fans have seen an injustice, and they've gone, well, we were cheated. Now, I don't think that Craig Pawson has cheated deliberately. What I am saying is that he's got to look at his performance in the future. He's got to address himself in terms of the physicality that's required at the top level of the game. Minimum 50 sprints, 1,000 metres at 7 metres per second. He knows what those technical requirements are, or the coaching team that's supporting him need to be offering him the right level of advice. He's got to change his performances, because I've seen this and I've commented about this before.
We look on this show at the reasons why these mistakes are made, and that's an educational point, which brings me to, I know I certainly don't watch the referee primarily when I'm watching a game of football. I'm sure you don't, Brian. And so it takes a skilled eye like yours, because you're seeing things that we're not from a technical point of view, which is the difficulty here. We only see it on replay. So I'm a supporter of, I'm watching the game, lover of the game. And that's, some of us are not seeing these points, these refereeing points, are we? Not in real time.
No, it's the same way if you're watching the game as a coach or as a fan, you watch different things. So, you know, that's why Keith's got a trained eye.
But Mark Robbins, who's a very experienced manager, terrific player by the way, must have been absolutely gutted.
Yeah, because that was the big moment. The big moment.
It was a big moment.
Another big moment. Arguably bigger. This was at White Hart Lane. Spurs 2, another of your former clubs, Leicester City 2, who were on the verge of a victory and going through to the fourth round. Late penalty call, equaliser for Spurs. Was it ball to hand or hand to ball, Nathan Dyer, in that instance? Penalty was awarded. What's your call?
Ball to hand. You know, for me, that's not a penalty. I mean, he's turned blind into the ball, and you know, it's a disappointing penalty. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're Tottenham, from a Tottenham point of view, you're going to claim for that all day long. You know, but from Nathan Dyer, you could see he's turned round, and it's just your natural hand movement.
What's your call?
Oh, it's not deliberate. It's not deliberate. For a foul to be awarded, and certainly a penalty kick, handball has to be deliberate, and this is not deliberate.
This is Bobby Madley.
Yeah, I mean, I like Bobby Madley as a referee. I think, again, he lumbers a bit in terms of his movement, but he started trying to put a bit of pace in it. And, you know, this is experience. Don't guess.
There's a lot of confusion, it seems to me, about handball, primarily, and I think here, my layman's view, you've seen a hell of a lot of these soft penalties awarded for handball. So therefore, there isn't the element of surprise when one like that gets given. Because quite a few pundits have said, oh, I thought it was a penalty. There's been a lot of disagreement on this.
I don't see how it can be a penalty. I mean, I don't know the position of where the ref was, but you know, if the linesman's on that side, surely he can see that he's just turned blind like that.
Thanks for your correspondence, by the way, on this as well. We had a message from Roger Wall, who doesn't agree with all this nonsense he says about unnatural arm position, you know, and referees deciding, oh, it's an unnatural arm position, so therefore it's a penalty.
The point there, Alan, is that, first of all, you've got the law, and the law says quite clearly what handball is. I mean, often we forget that it's from the joint in the sleeve of the shirt right through the arm down to the hand. And the word deliberate is part of the law. So that's specific. When we get into the realms of arms and hands in unnatural position, it's actually the coaching aspect of referees, what to look for from a refereeing perspective.
And there's a weakness in that area. Stay tuned for You Are the Ref, and look at the website, because there'll be plenty more debate about this. Just finally, we must get onto this incident in this League Two game. Chesterfield's thrilling victory at Rochdale by 3-2, with a lot of extra incident piled into this by the referee Carl Boyson, who incorrectly disallowed a goal for Chesterfield in that game. I'm reliably informed, but also he notably and remarkably sent off Chesterfield's Gaboli Aribi for 2, quotes, dives, 2 acts of simulation. I can't think of another instance of that. Can you, Keith?
No, I can't,
Can anybody?
I have a big doubt about it, because I think once a player's been cautioned for simulation, the natural reaction for the player is not to do it again, because he's suddenly, just a minute, this referee's aware. So to have 2 yellow cards, 2 cautions for simulation, that's why it's rare. That's why we've not, in our own recollection, got any sort of...
You can't appeal it, Brian. That's just a frustrating thing as well.
It's a bad decision.
Well, certainly sources, shall we say, close to Chesterfield, who I've spoken to, describe the referee's performance as woeful and terrible in terms like that.
A pity, Alan, because, again, coming in, I watched Boyson referee at Barnsley a few weeks ago, and in fact, dropped a note to the Football League saying he's changed, because before that he was quick to find too many things in a game, i.e. the yellow cards were coming out confetti, and it's a pity if he's dropped back off the standard of performance that I saw at Barnsley, because he had a good game there.
Brave in a sense to dismiss a player for diving. A lot of people say, "Oh, about time too," but of course you've got to be absolutely spot on with it, haven't you?
You're calling a player a cheat. When you caution a player for simulation, you know it's a very complex process. Detecting it, first of all. You can see the obvious ones because there's a big gap between the player and the ball if you're in the right position. Yeah. But I'm very wary of a player receiving 2 yellow cards for simulation. I find that difficult to believe. I'm going to rush home now to see if I can get a view on the video clip to have a look.
All right, Keith, thanks very much. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for you being there and also for your great points, and keep those coming to youaretheref.com. Meantime, we'll see you next week. Bye.